No one in the galaxy ever forgot the warning. Not because it was loud. Not because it was violent. But because every ship that ignored it never came back. The border of human territory did not look special. There were no massive fleets waiting, no glowing weapons, no walls of steel. Just space. Quiet. Empty. And filled with beacons drifting like forgotten relics. Each one repeated the same calm message in thousands of languages, over and over, without anger or threat. You are approaching human-controlled space. Entry without permission is not advised. The message did not say what would happen. It never needed to. Commander Rail Threx stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Silent Path and stared at the stars ahead. He had crossed dangerous regions before, war zones, collapsing systems, dead civilizations. But this was different. This was the first time in his long career that fear had no clear shape. Behind him, the bridge crew worked in uneasy silence. The Galactic Union had sent them for one reason only: answers. Over the last 2 centuries, dozens of unmanned probes had crossed into human space. Every single one had gone dark. No data. No wreckage. No signal. As if space itself had swallowed them whole. Then, 5 years ago, a fully crewed patrol ship vanished as well. The Union called it an accident. No one believed that. Humans were still considered a young species. Loud. Creative. Emotion-driven. Dangerous in small, chaotic ways. But not like this. Not precise. Not silent. Rail turned from the viewport. Status. Engine steady, said Engineer Cole Marr, his voice tight. Shields at full. Long-range sensors show nothing. No ships. No stations. No response to our hails, added Communications Officer Sevi Lin. Not even an automated reply. Rail nodded slowly. Humans never answered first. That alone made them different. How far to the borderline? He asked. 3 minutes. No one spoke after that. The Silent Path drifted forward, its engines barely whispering against the void. The beacons grew clearer on the main display, small metallic objects, simple in design, yet placed with perfect precision. Millions of them, forming a border that stretched farther than the scanners could track. Rail had studied human history. He knew they were planners. Builders. They prepared for futures that did not yet exist. Still, this level of restraint puzzled him. Any other civilization would have guarded such a border with force. Humans chose warnings. Commander, Sevi said quietly, we're receiving a new signal. Rail straightened. From where? Everywhere. The sound did not come through speakers. It came through the ship itself. A low vibration. A gentle pressure, as if the Silent Path had passed through an invisible wave. Then the lights dimmed. Not failed. Dimmed. Perfectly synchronized. Every console flickered once. Just once. Report. Rail snapped. Power stable. No hull damage. Systems responding normally. Cole hesitated. Commander, I think something accessed us. Rail felt a chill spread through his chest. Explain. I don't know how, Cole said. But it's like, something checked us. Every system. Every compartment. Even life support patterns. Sevi swallowed. That wasn't a scan. That was an inspection. Rail turned back to the viewport. The beacons behind them were now distant. They had crossed the line. Nothing attacked them. Nothing chased them. Nothing appeared. Minutes passed. Then an hour. The silence grew heavier with every second. This makes no sense, Sevi whispered. If humans wanted us gone, we'd be gone. Yes, Rail replied. Which means they want something else. What could they want from us? Cole asked. Rail did not answer, because the truth was forming in his mind, and he did not like it. They wanted to see what the Union would do. Suddenly, the main display shifted. A single object appeared ahead. Small. Human-made. Clearly visible. A ship, Sevi said. No weapons signatures. No active shields. One life sign, Cole added slowly. Human. The bridge fell silent. A lone human ship had approached them, openly, without fear. It stopped just outside collision range. Then a signal came through, clear, calm, and unmistakably human. Galactic vessel silent path, a voice said. You are far from home. The voice belonged to a woman. Steady. Warm. Not hostile. I am Leah Moreno. Terran Boundary Service. I will be boarding your ship shortly. I am unarmed. Please do not interfere. Rael felt his pulse spike. Commander, Sevi whispered. This could be a trap. Everything about this is a trap, Rael said quietly. And yet, we're still alive. The human ship docked with perfect precision. Moments later, the airlock cycled. Rael stood as the door opened. The human stepped inside. She was smaller than he expected. No armor. No visible weapons. Just a simple dark uniform and calm eyes that seemed to measure the entire room in a single glance. She smiled. Thank you for not panicking, she said. Most crews do. Rael forced himself to meet her gaze. You allowed us to enter. Yes, Leah replied. We always do. Then why does no one return? Her smile softened, but did not fade. Because everyone who enters must choose, she said. And once that choice is made, the galaxy never sees them the same way again. Rael felt something shift inside him. What choice? He asked. Leah looked around the bridge, at the frightened faces, the ancient technology, the fear hiding behind authority. You can leave, she said. And forget everything you've seen. And the other option? She met his eyes. You can stay. And learn why humans draw their lines so far from home. The silence that followed was heavier than space itself. Rael understood then. The warning was never meant to stop them. It was meant to test who was brave, or foolish, enough to cross it. And human space was not empty. It was watching. Leah Moreno didn't move like a soldier. She moved like someone who had all the time in the universe. Commander Rael Threx watched her stand on his bridge as if she belonged there, as if the silent path was already part of her territory. Not arrogant. Not aggressive. Just certain. Around Rael, his crew stayed frozen at their stations. Fingers hovered above controls. Hearts beat too loud in the quiet. Rael forced his voice to stay steady. You're saying every ship that entered was given this choice? Yes, Leah said. Every one. And what did they choose? Leah's eyes softened, but there was something guarded behind them, like a door that never fully opened. Different things, she answered. For different reasons. Rael felt anger rise under his fear. That's not an answer. It's the only safe one, Leah replied, still calm. Because the moment I tell you details, you stop being guests and become a threat. Rael stared at her. You call this being guests? We were scanned like cargo. Leah nodded once. Inspected. Not harmed. There's a difference. Colmar, the engineer, leaned forward. How did you even do that? Our systems are encrypted Union grade. Leah looked at him like a teacher considering how to explain a simple truth to someone who had never seen rain. Union grade encryption is designed to stop Union grade minds, she said. Humans don't think like that. Sevi Lin swallowed hard. So you're admitting you can control us? Leah didn't deny it. I'm admitting you're in a region of space built around a principle your galaxy forgot. Rael narrowed his eyes. And what principle is that? Leah's voice remained gentle. Consent. The word landed like a strange weapon. Rael stepped closer. You mean permission? No, Leah said quietly. Permission is something the powerful demand. Consent is something both sides agree to. The bridge stayed silent. Rael tried to understand what kind of species spoke this way while also making fleets vanish without a trace. He lifted his chin. If we refuse both options? If we try to run? Leah didn't change expression, but something in her eyes became older. You won't, she said. Rael hated how confident she sounded. And if we do? Leah turned her head slightly, listening, not to Rael, but to something else. Almost like she was hearing a voice in the walls. Then she spoke. Do you know why your union calls us young? Rael didn't answer. Because it makes you comfortable, Leah continued. If humans are young, then humans are predictable. If humans are predictable, then humans can be controlled. Cole muttered under his breath, You can't. Leah looked at him. We don't want to. Rael's jaw tightened. Then explain the missing ships. Leah took one slow step forward. Explain something first. Tell me why you're really here. Rael hesitated. The mission orders were simple on paper. Investigate, recover data, return. But the Union didn't send the silent path because they cared about lost probes. They sent it because fear was spreading. Because whispers were spreading. Because every species in the Union had started asking the same question. What kind of civilization makes the galaxy back away? Rael didn't like admitting that. But Leah already knew. So he spoke the only honest truth. We're here because the Union is afraid, Rael said. They want to know what you are. What you're hiding. Leah nodded like a doctor hearing the obvious diagnosis. We're hiding from your system, she said. Not from you personally. Sevi frowned. The Union isn't a war empire. We don't enslave. Leah's eyes sharpened, still warm, but with a quiet edge. You don't enslave with chains, she said. You enslave with ladders. Rael's stomach tightened. Explain. Leah paced slowly, hands behind her back. She studied the bridge consoles with casual interest, like she was touring an old museum. Your galaxy is built on one story, she said. Older species guide the younger. The younger obey. Over time, they earn status. They become mature. That's what you tell yourselves. Cole frowned. That's not slavery. That's stability. Stability for those on top, Leah said. For everyone else, it's a cage made from patience. Rael took a slow breath. And humans refused. Yes. Leah stopped pacing and faced him. Because we saw the future you were offering. A slow surrender. 1,000,000 years of being taught how to behave. Sevi's voice was small. So you threatened us. Leah's smile returned, gentle and strange. We warned you. Rael stepped closer, unable to stop himself. But you wiped out warships. That isn't a warning. Leah met his eyes. Commander, she said softly, we didn't wipe them out. Rael froze. Then where are they? Leah looked around at his crew again. Fear, curiosity, anger, hope. She saw all of it. Then she said the sentence that changed the air in the room. They're alive. Rael felt the bridge tilt in his mind. Alive. Cole repeated. Where? Leah's tone stayed calm. Some are here. Some chose to leave. Some chose to stay. Some were too dangerous to return with their memories intact. Sevi's voice broke. You erased them. We removed what would cause war, Leah said. The knowledge that would make your union invade, panic, or destroy itself trying to control what it can't. Rael stared at her, struggling to keep his voice steady. And you think you have the right to decide that? Leah didn't flinch. Do you think the Union has the right to send expendable crews into forbidden space just to satisfy fear? Rael's throat tightened. She knew. Of course she knew. Leah stepped closer, lowering her voice so it felt private even on an open bridge. I know your file, Commander Rael Threx, she said. I know why you were chosen. Rael didn't move. You're brave, she continued. You're competent. But you're also inconvenient. You ask questions up the chain. You don't accept because the elders said so. Rael's eyes hardened. That's not a crime. In your system, Leah replied softly, it becomes one. Cole's fur bristled. How do you know all this? Leah's answer was quiet. Because we watch the patterns, she said. We don't spy for power. We watch for danger. We watch for people who might reach our border out of fear, or out of hope. Sevi whispered, hope. Leah nodded. Yes. Hope is what brings the best ones. Rael felt his chest tighten. So this is a recruitment. Leah smiled slightly. If you want to call it that. Rael glanced at his crew. Some were shaking. Some were staring at Leah like she was impossible. But beneath the fear, there was a spark. The Union had never offered them choices. The Union had offered them roles. Rael's voice came out rough. If we choose to stay, what happens? Leah's eyes softened again, and for the first time, she looked almost humanly tired. You'll learn, she said. You'll see what we built. Why our border exists. Why we hide the way we do. And if we choose to leave? You wake up outside our space, Leah replied. With a clean timeline in your mind. No trauma. No secrets. No proof. Rael's jaw clenched. That sounds like death. Leah shook her head. No. It's mercy. The bridge lights flickered again, only once, like the ship had blinked. Sevi looked at her station. Commander, something's happening. What? Rael asked. Sevi's eyes widened. A second signal. Not from Leah's ship. From, deeper in human space. Rael turned to the main screen. A point of light appeared far ahead. Then another. Then another. Hundreds. Thousands. Not ships. Not exactly. They were markers, like stars waking up in a pattern, forming a path through the darkness, a road made of light. Leah exhaled softly, almost relieved. They've opened the corridor, she said. Rael stared at the glowing route. To where? Leah's smile returned, but this time it carried something heavier than kindness. To the place where your missing ships went, she said. To the truth. Rael felt cold fear and fierce curiosity collide inside him. And if we walk that path, can we still choose to leave? Leah looked at him for a long moment. Then she answered in a voice that sounded almost like a warning and almost like compassion. You can always leave, she said. But you won't be the same people when you do. The silent path followed the corridor of light. No engines pushed it forward. No commands were entered. Space itself seemed to guide the ship, gently bending its path as if invisible hands were turning the stars aside. Rael had the unsettling feeling that if they tried to fight it, the ship would simply refuse. The crew felt it too. This isn't propulsion, Cole whispered. It's like the universe agreed to move us. Leah stood near the viewport, hands relaxed, watching the lights ahead like an old road she had walked many times before. You're safe, she said. Nothing in this corridor can harm you unless you decide to harm first. Rael didn't like how easily she said that. You keep talking about choice. But everything here is controlled. Yes, Leah replied calmly. Controlled, not coerced. The corridor opened suddenly. Space unfolded. Rael had seen megastructures before. Ring worlds. Starlifters. Ancient ruins left by dead species. None of them prepared him for what now filled the view. A system-wide lattice surrounded a yellow star. Not a shell, not a cage, but layers upon layers of structures orbiting at impossible precision. Stations, habitats, arrays, and things Rael had no words for, all moving in harmony. Light traveled along curved paths, redirected without beams or mirrors. Energy flowed like water through a living machine. This is impossible, Sevi whispered. Leah nodded. That's what the Union would say. Rael's voice was barely audible. How old is this? Leah didn't answer immediately. Then she said, older than your council believes we are capable of. Rael turned to her sharply. You didn't build this recently. No, Leah said. We started building it before we ever announced ourselves to the galaxy. The bridge went silent. You hid, Cole said. You advanced quietly. We prepared, Leah corrected. Because humans don't trust first contact. Rael frowned. Yet you were the ones who reached out. Yes, Leah said. After we were ready to survive the consequences. The silent path drifted deeper, passing close to a massive station shaped like interlocking rings. Rail's sensors struggled, overwhelmed by information. There are millions of life signs, Sevi said, stunned. Human. Non-human too. Rael looked at Leah. Aliens. Guests, she replied. Refugees. Defectors. Observers. Those who chose to stay. Rael felt a strange pressure in his chest. You took them from the Union. We offered them a door, Leah said. They walked through it. The corridor guided them toward a smaller structure ahead, calm and unthreatening in shape. The ship slowed on its own and docked. This is where the others are, Leah said. The ones who entered before you. Rael hesitated. Alive. Yes. The airlock opened. What Rael expected was fear. Or resentment. Or broken minds. What he saw instead was peace. Different species stood together in a wide, open hall filled with soft light and quiet sound. Some wore human clothing. Some kept their own traditions. None were restrained. None looked imprisoned. A tall figure noticed Rael and froze. Then stepped forward. Commander Threx, the figure said. Rael's eyes widened. Captain Jorn. Jorn had commanded the missing Union patrol ship. You vanished, Rael said. They said you were lost. Jorn gave a sad smile. We were found. Rael turned slowly to Leah. You lied. No, she said gently. I told you the truth you were ready to hear. Jorn looked at Leah, then back at Rael. She didn't force us. None of this was forced. Rael struggled to speak. Then why didn't you come back? Jorn's expression darkened. Because if we had, the Union would have burned this place down out of fear. Rael looked around again. Humans and aliens speaking freely, working side by side. You're building a coalition, he said. Leah shook her head. We're building an alternative. Rael's voice dropped. To the Union. To the idea that power must be inherited instead of earned, Leah said. To the belief that age makes someone wiser. Sevi spoke softly. Then why hide? Leah looked at her. Because humanity learned a painful lesson early. She gestured, and the wall shifted, displaying images. Wars. Human wars. Ancient ones. Planets burning. Cities falling. Species nearly erased. By humans. Rael felt sick. You did this. Yes, Leah said quietly. Before we ever left our star system. Cole's voice was rough. Then why aren't you monsters now? Leah met his gaze. Because we survived ourselves. She turned back to Rael. Humans learned restraint the hard way. We learned that being powerful doesn't mean being right. So when we reached the stars, we made a rule. What rule? Rael asked. Leah spoke slowly. No first strike. No forced expansion. No domination. Rael laughed bitterly. And the warships that vanished. Leah's eyes were steady. They fired first. Rael remembered the reports. The missing vessels. The silence. You erased them. No, Leah said. We stopped them. Then we gave their crews the same choice you now have. Rael looked at Jorn again. And you chose to stay. Jorn nodded. Because for the first time, someone asked what kind of future I wanted. Not what my species was ready for. The weight of that hit Rael harder than any weapon. Leah stepped closer. Commander, your Union fears us because we don't fit into their hierarchy. We don't rise slowly. We adapt quickly. She leaned in slightly. And we don't forget who treats people as expendable. Rael's hands curled into fists. If we return with this knowledge. You won't, Leah said gently. Rael froze. So the choice was never real. It is, Leah replied. You can leave. Or you can stay. And if we leave? Rael asked. Leah's voice was quiet but firm. You'll forget this place. But the feeling will remain. The sense that something important was taken from you. Rael looked at his crew. At their faces. At the possibility hanging in the air. Beyond the viewport, human space continued endlessly, silent, patient, alive. Rael realized then what truly frightened the Union. Not human weapons. Not human technology. But the fact that humanity had built something no empire could control. And they were offering him a seat inside it. Rael took a slow breath. I need time, he said. Leah nodded. Take it. As she turned away, Rael understood the final truth of human space. It wasn't empty. It was selective. Time passed differently inside human space. Rael noticed it first when he tried to measure it. The ship clock still moved, but the feeling of urgency had faded. No alarms. No pressure. No invisible countdown forcing a decision. That alone unsettled him more than any threat ever had. The crew of the Silent Path were given freedom. Not the kind written into treaties. Real freedom. They were allowed to walk the station, speak with its inhabitants, observe, ask questions. No guards followed them. No restrictions were announced. And yet, none of them tried to run. Because there was nowhere to run to. Rael stood at a wide observation deck, watching humans and aliens work together in calm coordination. A being from a silicon-based species discussed orbital math with a human child. A former Union soldier laughed quietly with a Terran engineer. No ranks. No visible chains. This place shouldn't exist, Rael thought. And yet it did. You're looking for cracks, Leah said behind him. Rael didn't turn. Any civilization this advanced has them. Yes, Leah replied. We just learned not to hide them. Rael faced her. If this is so peaceful, why keep it secret? Leah leaned against the railing. Because peace frightens empires more than war. Rael said nothing. She continued. If the Union knew this place existed, they wouldn't ask to join. They'd demand access. They'd send observers. Then advisors. Then protections. And eventually, soldiers. You think we'd invade, Rael said. I know you would, Leah replied gently. Not because you're cruel. Because your system doesn't allow alternatives to exist. Rael's chest tightened. And if we refuse to forget? If we return and tell them anyway? Leah looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, that has happened before. Rael's breath caught. What did you do? We tried to reason, Leah said. We tried diplomacy. Transparency. Warnings. And the Union sent a fleet. Rael felt cold spread through his veins. What happened to it? Leah's eyes reflected the distant stars. It never reached us. Rael stared. You destroyed it. No, Leah said quietly. We isolated it. She raised her hand, and the air shimmered. A projection formed, space folding in on itself, a fleet trapped in a looping corridor of distorted physics. They're still alive, Leah said. Still thinking they're moving forward. Still burning fuel. Still waiting for a battle that will never arrive. Rael felt sick. That's cruel. Leah looked at him sharply. Is it more cruel than annihilation? Rael had no answer. Later, he gathered his crew. They sat in a quiet chamber provided to them. No locks, no guards, just light and open space. Fear hung between them, heavy and unspoken. We have to decide, Rael said. Cole was the first to speak. If we go back blind. Sevi nodded. And if we stay, we become traitors. Rail looked at Captain Jawn, who had joined them. Do you regret staying? Jawn thought for a long moment. Every day, he said. And not once. The crew fell silent. What about your family? Sevi asked. Jawn smiled sadly. They think I died. That hurts. But if I'd gone back, millions might have died instead. Rail closed his eyes. That was the cost humans had chosen long ago. Not glory. Not domination. Silence. Leah returned hours later. I need your answer, she said. Rail looked at his crew. At their fear. Their hope. Their exhaustion from a system that had already decided their worth. He faced Leah. If we stay, he asked, will the Union ever know? Leah shook her head. Only if they earn the right. And if we leave? You'll wake up just beyond your border, Leah said. Your logs intact. Your mission marked as inconclusive. No memories of this place. Rail swallowed. You're asking us to erase ourselves. No, Leah said softly. We're asking you to decide who you want to be remembered as. Rail turned back to his crew. No one spoke. But no one stepped back either. Rail exhaled slowly. We stay, he said. The words echoed heavier than any declaration of war. Leah closed her eyes briefly, not in victory, but in relief. Then welcome, she said, to the side of history no one writes about. Outside the viewport, the stars shifted. And far away, beyond the human border, the galaxy continued, unaware that one more ship had crossed a line and never truly returned. Not because it was destroyed, but because it chose something better. The Silent Path was officially listed as lost. In Union records, its final report ended mid-transmission, marked by a routine error code and filed away among thousands of other unexplained disappearances. There was no investigation. No ceremony. Just silence. And that was exactly how humanity wanted it. Rail Threx stood on a balcony overlooking the station that had become his new home. It no longer felt alien. The strange geometry, the layered light, the absence of command hierarchies, all of it now felt intentional. Calm. Built by minds that had decided long ago what kind of power they would never use. You're adapting quickly, Leah said beside him. Rail gave a faint smile. I spent my life climbing a ladder that never ended. This place removed it. Leah nodded. That's usually the hardest part. Below them, ships arrived, not in fleets, not in conquest formations, but one by one. Some damaged. Some desperate. Some carrying species the Union had quietly labeled unstable or non-compliant. Humans welcomed them all the same way. With a warning. With a choice. Rail had learned the truth over time. Human space was not defended by weapons first. It was defended by information, by prediction, by understanding behavior so deeply that violence became unnecessary. Borders were drawn far from their worlds not to claim territory, but to create distance from fear. Humanity had mapped the psychology of empires. They knew when curiosity would turn into control. They knew when diplomacy would turn into domination. And they knew exactly how much to reveal, and when to stop. Do you think the Union will ever change? Rail asked. Leah watched a distant star brighten as energy flowed around it. Empires don't change quickly. They fracture. They adapt. Or they fade. Rail exhaled. And us. You, Leah said gently, are the proof they can't ignore. Rail became something new in human space. Not a commander. Not a citizen. A bridge. He worked with humans and former Union officers to design protocols, non-violent, patient, terrifyingly effective. When Union probes approached the border now, they didn't vanish. They stopped. Engines powered down gently. Sensors flooded with harmless but overwhelming data. And a single message appeared. You are seen. You are understood. You may turn back. Most did. Some didn't. Those who crossed still faced the same choice. Stay, or forget. And slowly, so slowly the Union didn't notice at first, things began to change. Young species delayed joining the hierarchy. Border worlds stopped answering union directives. Trade routes shifted, quietly avoiding certain councils. Fear spread. But not of humanity. Fear of irrelevance. Rael watched it happen from the shadows, understanding at last why humans had never needed to announce their strength. Because the strongest civilizations don't conquer. They wait. One day, Leah joined Rael with a familiar look in her eyes. "A Union delegation is approaching the border," she said. Rael's heart skipped. "A fleet?" "No," Leah replied. "One ship. Diplomatic. They're asking for permission." Rael closed his eyes briefly. The line had worked. "They're finally learning," he said. Leah smiled, not triumphant, but hopeful. "Send the shepherds," she said. "And the beacons." Rael looked out into the stars, toward the quiet border that had swallowed so many stories and protected even more. He understood now why no one ever came back the same. Human space didn't destroy you. It asked you who you were, and refused to let you lie. Far beyond the border, the galaxy continued to whisper the old myths. That humans were young. That humans were dangerous. That human territory was forbidden. None of it was entirely true. The truth was far more unsettling. Humanity didn't rule the galaxy. They didn't need to. They had built something stronger than fear. And anyone who entered their space without permission never returned as the same person. Because once you saw how quietly powerful humanity was, you could never unsee it.